Welcome back to the Real English, Real Stories, the podcast where we break down the language, psychology, and habits that help you speak English naturally. I'm your host, Christina. Today, we are tackling a monster, a psychological monster that affects almost every single language learner. And honestly, if we are being completely truthful, it affects most native speakers too. I want you to think about this scenario. Visualize. You're lying in bed. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. The room is completely dark and it's dead silent. But your brain decides it's the perfect time to play a movie. Except it's not an entertaining movie. It's a horror replay of a 10-second interaction you had at lunchtime. In English, we call this replaying a conversation in your head. You lie there staring at the ceiling, thinking, why did I use that specific word? Did my tone sound a little aggressive? Did they think I was being rude when I didn't say goodbye properly? We have all been there, but here is what fascinates me. Have you ever looked at truly confident speakers? They aren't flawless. They stutter, they use the wrong vocabulary sometimes, they pause awkwardly, or they lose their train of thought. But they just don't care. They don't obsess over every word. Why is that? Why do confident people get a free pass? And how can you adopt that exact same mindset to unlock your English fluency? Because let's be honest, overthinking is the #1 killer of communication. It is exactly like driving with the handbrake pulled up. You're putting in so much effort, pushing down on the gas pedal, but you are sabotaging your own speed because of internal anxiety. So today, we are going to release that handbrake. To understand how to stop overthinking, we first have to understand the psychology of why we do it. Psychologists have a fantastic term for this hyper-awareness. They call it the spotlight effect. Imagine walking into a room and there is a massive, bright spotlight shining directly on your head. You instantly feel like every single person in the room is staring at your shoes, your hair, and analyzing the exact way your mouth moves when you speak. When you are speaking a second language, that imaginary spotlight feels 10 times brighter. You assume the person you are talking to is secretly grading your grammar, counting your mistakes, and judging your accent. But here is the beautiful, liberating truth. The spotlight is a lie. It is total fiction. In reality, the person you are talking to isn't focusing on your minor mistakes at all. Why? Because they are trapped under their own imaginary spotlight. They are too busy worrying about what they are going to say next, or whether they look awkward. This brings us to the core difference between an overthinker and a confident speaker. Overthinkers fall into the perfection trap. They treat a casual conversation like a university exam where you start with 100 points and every little mistake deducts a point. That is an incredibly stressful way to live. If you look at communication as a test, your brain is going to do what it always does under extreme stress. It's going to freeze up. That phrase, to freeze up, means to suddenly become completely unable to think or speak because you feel nervous. Your mind goes totally blank, and ironically, the harder you try to find the perfect phrase to avoid a mistake, the more likely your brain is to freeze up. Confident speakers don't look at conversation as an exam. They look at it like a casual game of catch. If I throw a ball to you and the throw is a little off-center, you don't stop the game, drop the ball, and yell, "That was an imperfect throw." No, you just reach out your hand, catch it, and throw it back. The entire goal of a conversation is just to keep the ball moving. So, if confident people aren't aiming for perfection, what are they aiming for? They prioritize intent over perfection. Their primary goal is connection. They want to convey a feeling, an idea, or a specific vibe. They know a secret that a lot of language learners forget. Communication is only about 10% the exact words you choose. The other 90% is your body language, your energy, your tone of voice, and how well you listen. Think about your own life. If someone speaks to you with absolutely flawless grammar but sounds like a cold, rigid robot, you don't really enjoy the interaction. But if someone stumbles over a word, laughs at themselves, expresses an idea genuinely, and brings great energy, you instantly feel connected to them. In fact, making minor mistakes can actually be a good thing. In psychology and communication, we sometimes call these humanizers. A humanizer is exactly what it sounds like. It's a little flaw or vulnerability that makes you human. It breaks the ice. Confident people don't panic when they stumble a syllable. Instead, they use native phrases to laugh it off. For example, if a confident speaker mixes up two words, they don't freeze and apologize profusely. They might just stop, chuckle, and say, "Whoops, my brain is moving faster than my mouth today. Let me try that sentence again. My coffee clearly hasn't kicked in yet." Wow, words are tough today. Notice the magic of those phrases. They don't sound like an embarrassed apology. They sound like an invitation to laugh together. They take a moment of potential awkwardness and turn it into a moment of genuine human connection. That is the ultimate secret weapon. Confident speakers don't see a mistake as a sign of weakness. They see it as a completely normal part of human interaction, and then they simply move on. They don't let a minor slip-up ruin the next 10 minutes of their day. Now, this mindset shift is incredibly important, but let's get practical. If you are listening to this and thinking, "Okay, I understand the theory, but how do I actually stop overthinking in the middle of a real, live English conversation?" Here are 3 practical strategies you can start using today. Strategy number 1. Shift your focus outward. Overthinking is a form of extreme internal focus. You are trapped inside your own head, looking inward, evaluating your own thoughts like a critic. To break that cycle, you have to force your focus outward. Look at the person you are talking to. Listen intently to their words, watch their facial expressions, and try to truly understand their point of view. When your brain is 100% focused on decoding them, there is simply no processing power left over to obsess about yourself. Active listening completely kills overthinking. Strategy number 2. Drop the mental translation. A lot of overthinking happens because you are trying to build a complex sentence in your native language. Translate it to English, filter it through 3 different grammar rules, and then output it. By the time you do all that work, the moment has passed. To stop this, you need to embrace simplicity. Use shorter sentences. Use high-frequency vocabulary. It is vastly better to say something simple, clear, and punchy right now than to say something complex and perfect 3 minutes too late. Speed and presence beat complexity every single time. Strategy number 3. Change your post-conversation review. Instead of lying in bed at 2:00 a.m. asking yourself, "What did I say wrong?" I want you to change the question entirely. Ask yourself, did we understand each other? Did I smile? Did I learn something new about that person? If the answer to those questions is yes, then your conversation was a 100% success. It doesn't matter if you messed up a preposition or used the wrong tense. The goal was connection, and you hit the target. Before I sign off today, let's do a quick recap of the natural native idioms and expressions we used in this episode so you can add them to your own vocabulary journal. To replay a conversation in your head. To repeatedly and obsessively think about a past interaction. To drive with the handbrake on. To hold yourself back or limit your progress because of anxiety or hesitation. To freeze up. To suddenly become unable to speak or think clearly because you feel nervous. Humanizers, small mistakes or flaws that make you appear more relatable and trustworthy to others. To laugh it off. to dismiss a mistake or an embarrassing moment lightly by using humour. Stop aiming for perfection, my friends. Focus on connection. Drop the internal script and just enjoy the vibe of the room. Thank you so much for tuning in to Real English, Real Life. Don't overthink it, just keep speaking. I'll catch you in the next episode.